Welcome to Copilot Podcasts.
You know that feeling when you start something new, maybe a diet or workout routine, and you're absolutely crushing it for the first few days? Then life happens, you miss one day, and suddenly it all falls apart?
Oh, that's such a universal experience. And you know what's fascinating? Research shows it's not actually about those perfect streaks at all.
Really? Because I always thought consistency meant never missing a day.
That's actually one of the biggest myths about consistency. Recent research from University College London found something pretty surprising. Maintaining a habit 80% of the time produces almost identical results to perfect adherence.
Wait, what? You're telling me missing 1 or 2 days a week doesn't ruin everything?
Not at all. In fact, their study showed that people who maintained 80 to 90% consistency still formed habits successfully, just taking about 75-80 days instead of 66 days for the perfect adherence group.
That's actually really relieving to hear. But why does consistency matter so much in the first place?
It's all about how our brains work. You know how you can brush your teeth without thinking about it every morning?
Yeah, it's just automatic at this point.
Exactly. That's because consistency creates neural pathways in your brain. The more you repeat an action, the stronger these pathways become.
So our brains are literally rewiring themselves through consistency?
Precisely. And here's where it gets really interesting. There's a part of your brain called the basal ganglia that's basically your internal efficiency expert.
What do you mean by efficiency expert?
Well, your basal ganglia takes actions that used to require conscious thought and turns them into automatic behaviors. It's trying to save your brain energy.
That's fascinating. It's like having a personal assistant in your brain, automating your routine tasks.
That's a great analogy. And research shows this automation process affects about 40% of our daily actions.
40%? That's huge. But how does this actually work in practice?
It follows something called the habit loop. There's a cue that triggers the behavior, then the routine itself, and finally a reward that reinforces it.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. Let's say you want to start drinking water first thing in the morning. The cue might be waking up, the routine is drinking the water, and the reward is feeling refreshed.
You know what this reminds me of? I read that Darth Vader merchandise consistently outsells Luke Skywalker by 4 to 1.
Interesting connection. How do you see that relating to consistency?
Well, Vader's character is all about rigid routine and consistency, while Luke's more about those occasional bursts of heroic brilliance.
That's a brilliant observation, and it actually connects to some fascinating research about consistency versus sporadic brilliance in achievement.
Tell me more about that.
Studies show that while moments of brilliance might capture attention, it's consistent effort that actually leads to lasting success. Think of it like compound interest for your habits.
But isn't it hard to maintain that consistency? Life gets chaotic.
That's where the 80% rule comes in handy. The goal isn't perfection, it's sustainability.
What are some practical strategies for building that sustainable consistency?
One of the most effective approaches is something called habit stacking, attaching new habits to existing ones.
How does that work?
Let's say you already have a solid habit of making coffee every morning. You could use that as a cue to do a new habit, like reading for 5 minutes while your coffee brews.
That makes sense. You're basically piggybacking on an existing neural pathway.
Exactly. And research shows this method can reduce the time it takes to form a new habit by up to 30%.
What about tracking progress? Does that help with consistency?
Absolutely. Studies show that monitoring your habits increases self-awareness and accountability. But here's the key. Track your wins, not your streaks.
What's the difference?
Well, if you're focused on streaks, one miss feels like starting over. But if you track wins, you might see that you still succeeded 25 out of 30 days. That's amazing.
That's a much healthier way to look at it. Any other strategies?
Yes, there's something called the never miss twice rule. If you miss one day, that's fine. Just don't miss the next day.
That seems way more manageable than trying to be perfect all the time.
And that's exactly why it works. Research shows this approach prevents the all-or-nothing thinking that often derails habit formation.
You mentioned earlier that consistency reduces stress. How does that work?
Studies show that well-designed daily routines can reduce stress levels by 23%. It's because you're reducing decision fatigue.
Decision fatigue?
Yes, every decision you make takes mental energy. When you have consistent routines, many decisions become automatic, saving that mental energy for more important things.
That makes me think about successful people and their seemingly boring routines.
Exactly. They're not boring, they're strategic. They're using consistency to free up mental resources for creativity and problem solving.
So consistency isn't just about getting things done, it's about making space for growth?
Precisely. When basic behaviors become automatic, you have more capacity for learning and innovation.
What about people who say routines kill creativity?
Research actually shows the opposite. Having structured routines can increase creative output by providing a stable foundation for experimentation.
That's really counterintuitive.
Think about it like this. When you don't have to think about when to eat or exercise, your mind is free to focus on creative problems.
So what's the first step for someone wanting to build more consistency in their life?
Start small. Research shows that choosing a tiny, manageable habit increases your chances of success dramatically.
How small are we talking?
Think reading for just 2 minutes, or doing 1 push-up. The key is making it so easy you can't say no.
And then you build from there?
Exactly. Once the small habit is consistent, you can gradually increase it. It's like building a muscle. You start light and progressively add weight.
This all makes so much sense. Any final thoughts on consistency?
Remember that consistency isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Those small, daily actions compound over time into remarkable changes.
And better to hit 80% consistently than burn out chasing perfection.
Absolutely. Success isn't about those occasional bursts of motivation. It's about showing up day after day, even when it's not perfect.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode of Copilot Podcasts. Remember, you don't have to be perfect, you just have to be consistent.
And if you miss a day, don't worry, just never miss twice.